multi-billionaires deciding our future, deciding the technological paths that our civilization will take, and squabbling with each other in very immature fashion on their very own social media platforms. And we have no say in it. We just get to sit back and watch the world run away, take its course, see where the resources and minds will put their energy as dictated by a few hundred or a few thousand of the world's ultra-rich elite. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. If you like what I'm doing, please be sure to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. So, just a few days ago, the Meta company, the company that runs the platforms Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, launched a new platform, Threads, which is being launched as a direct competitor to Elon Musk's Twitter. Now, this has been coming for a while. I know that the announcement of its development hasn't been a secret, but it did kind of take me by surprise when it launched. It wasn't something I had heard a whole lot about in the run-up to its launch, but in the few days before it launched, suddenly started making headlines. Then it launched, and it has been a huge success as far as apps and internet platforms go. Within something like the first 5 days, 100 million users signed up for Threads. And all of a sudden, there is a massive competitor to Twitter and a massive rivalry between two of the world's richest men, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. Now, who could have imagined this? Imagine back in kind of the start of the internet boom around the mid-90s, for example, when internet use was starting to grow exponentially. Who would have thought that this is where we would end up? I can imagine someone back then in the mid-90s writing kind of a satirical novel about the future, a future dystopia where the world's richest men are running rival message boards, each worth tens of billions of dollars, and that these internet message boards are defining the rivalry between two of the world's richest and most powerful men. Just think now, without any involvement from democracy, from any of the world's voter bases, we have this handful of a few hundred CEOs, stock owners, and board members who dictate the movement and investment of tens of trillions of dollars, and they dictate, again, without any involvement by the world's voting populations, they dictate the goals of the nations, of the world's brightest minds, putting hundreds of thousands of brilliant engineers to work on this or that project, determining the technological and developmental trajectory of humankind and the world. This small elite handful of people is deciding how transport will evolve, how space will be explored and developed, how we will communicate with each other. So many things that influence our lives today and will influence our lives generations into the future are being decided by a very small number of people who have the wealth and the decision-making power. Just think, what if we could decide some of these things by ballot initiative? Like, okay, we're going to put 10,000 engineers on this, $10 billion into developing that. Like, I wonder what kind of things we would decide on if we could actually have a say in these matters. But I want to get into the story a bit about this rivalry between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. It's really something. It kind of, again, this comic, darkly comedic, dystopian tech world that we live in, that is developing, that is guiding our lives and deciding our futures. There's this article here by Business Insider says, someone's got to put an end to the Musk versus Zuck billionaire, quote, dick measuring contest before Elon gets his ruler out. Twitter user Elon Musk, who happens to own the social media platform, took to the interwebs on Sunday night to do what some men might have done in the wild days of their riotous, unbridled youth. Suggest a dick measuring contest. And it has an image here of these tweets that Elon Musk put out saying, Zuck is a cuck, followed by, I propose a literal dick measuring contest with a little ruler emoji. It's worth noting that this contest is nothing more than a proposal so far, and Zuck, as of press time, has not responded. But the cage match Musk suggested in June also started out as a joke, at least until Zuckerberg took the bait and asked Musk to send over the location for fight night. No concrete details have been firmed up for the fight, though a pay-per-view Zuckman versus Chief Twit brawl is far preferred to the genuinely heinous folly Musk is now suggesting. So this whole thing, you could say it's getting out of hand, but also it really is following in its own way a logical path to the kind of conclusions that you would expect if the world's richest people with just unbridled wealth, unbridled ambition end up competing against each other on social media. These are just ordinary people with far more wealth than anyone should reasonably be able to have, and far more power and influence than anyone should reasonably be able to have, and they are going at it as you would expect. And we find ourselves in this very interesting situation where the world's political class is looking less and less impressive as time goes on, less influential, less exemplary, while the billionaire class more and more kind of takes up the slack, and they aren't particularly impressive people themselves, but the kind of influence and the drive that they have is what is making up for the decline in our democratic institutions and the people elected to run them. So this is where we find ourselves now. This is our present, and it will likely continue on into the future. Multi-billionaires deciding our future, deciding the technological paths that our civilization will take, and squabbling with each other in very immature fashion on their very own social media platforms. And we have no say in it. We just get to sit back and watch the world run away, take its course, see where the resources and minds will put their energy as dictated by a few hundred or a few thousand of the world's ultra-rich elite. Hooray for us! Aren't we enlightened? Isn't this a great civilization that we live in? Well, I'm sure appreciate a lot of what we have around us, but just think of what we could do if we actually had real democracy, real decision-making power, where people could get together and decide on what would be in their best interest and choose to put resources in that direction. I think that would sure be preferable to the current situation that we have. Now, I've said this before about Elon Musk and his Twitter acquisition. It's just like someone who has way too much money, more money than anyone should be able to have, making the kinds of decisions that you could expect if someone with human foibles and frailties were put in that position. They buy their favorite message board for an exorbitant amount of money and then just run it into the ground, trying to please themselves with their latest toy. And people have been saying this for a while, something like Twitter, it's a brand, it's based on a reputation and a branding. The technology itself can be replicated, can fairly easily be replicated by anyone willing to put up enough resources. Well, you have a company like Meta with who knows how many thousands of engineers and who knows how many tens of billions of dollars in cash at the disposal of Zuckerberg and the board, and they were able to build a platform and launch it, and it is meeting a tremendous amount of success. So with all of Elon Musk's cost cutting and the tweaking he's done to Twitter, trying to both make it work in the fashion that he wants, which sometimes changes from day to day, and make it profitable, or at least not make it a drain on his own finances, he has weakened the brand, weakened the platform, and made it very easy for a competitor to step in and say, look, come to our platform. This is going to be a very standard corporate-run internet platform like what Twitter used to be, without all the excitement and hoopla and day-to-day changes, without some big polarizing figure running it as his own personal toy. Come on here and use our platform. And I think it's probably going to end up being fairly successful. And in my opinion, we're going to see Threads usage rise while Twitter's usage and brand continues to decline. Now, I don't even use any of these platforms. I don't use Twitter, I don't use Instagram, I probably won't be using Threads, But this is a spectator sport, and we all get to watch it. We all get to be entertained by the goings-ons of these larger-than-life figures and their antics and their squabbles. Hey, I'm genuinely looking forward to the possibility of a cage fight between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. Why not? That's kind of the way we're going. There's this great movie that came out years ago in 2006, I think, called Idiocracy by Mike Judge. I suggest if you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's a funny movie, but in a way it becomes less funny year after year after year.
Dumb, angry mobs took to the streets, rioting and looting, and screaming for Joe's head.
And the stock has dropped to zero, and the computer did that auto layoff thing to everybody. We're all unemployed.
The day could be coming soon where you have to watch out for your children going on the internet. Hey, don't go on, don't watch these things, don't watch these billionaires choking each other and punching each other in the ring. No, children, that is not how we solve our problems. Just because the world's biggest celebrities do it, that doesn't mean that we do it, and that is not the example that we follow. Look over here instead. Look at these examples set out by Jesus, set out by the apostles, where whoever wants to be the greatest is going to make himself the servant of all. I think, in God's kingdom, the greats might not even be known. We might not even know who they are. It's going to be the people who just go around helping others, making themselves available meekly, calmly. They aren't going to be the ones dictating. They aren't going to be necessarily making the big decisions. Maybe they will be, maybe they won't, but they're not going to be getting glory. They're not going to be taking the credit for things. They're not going to be lifting themselves up. They're not going to be being served by others. And they certainly aren't going to be engaging in these kinds of rivalries over who is the greatest. These are rudimentary lessons that Jesus' followers learned in the first years of their experience with Jesus. While he was on earth walking with them and teaching them, he taught them about these things. And they're recorded in the gospel for us to learn about and remember. You can watch my video on Mark chapter 10, which covers one of the most iconic examples of this kind of happening in the New Testament, where James and John come to Jesus asking him to put them on his right and left hand when he is in his kingdom, when he assumes reign over the kingdom, that he would lift them up and give them a station as his right and left hand people. And Jesus deals with them very gently. He doesn't condemn them for their immature way of thinking, but he's instructing his disciples, and he does this with Peter too. And Peter's asking about what kind of reward him and the rest of the 12 will have for the way they have forsaken their old lives to follow Jesus. And Jesus deals with these things very gently, explaining things to his disciples about what things are like in his kingdom and what he expects of his followers, where the greats will be like Jesus himself, tirelessly serving others. And the reward for God's faithful servants is to be given even greater responsibilities caring for God's kingdom. Well, thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think about this story, Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk. Tell me what you think about the New Testament principles and how they can be applied to these kind of situations. I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.